we are up at the club field on what looked like it was going to be a rainy day, but it turned out to be pretty decent. After a small amount of rain, we've lucked out. It looks like we're going to get some flying and some testing in. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, Mel also has a B-25, among other things, a real scale one. And maybe in the next couple of weeks we're going to get some pictures of that, since we're in B-25 mania here. This is his P-47 Thunderbolt. He has expressed an interest in the Zetron. So running, he has 30 models in his Air Force, so maybe we could sell him 30 of them. All right, Augie, where's the Cub? I can fly with you now. I have throttle control. We can do duets. Uh-oh. That's when you thought tradition would never come back to the... Mike's got 80 million more flights on it. I'm so sick of looking at this thing. Anyway, the objective here is...
Sick of looking at it, just let me know.
This is the motor that's going to go in Mike's... You going to have that thing ready for next weekend? Your new plane?
All I got to do is make some wheel pants.
Oh, wheel pants, okay. So the idea is we want to get the needle valve set, the tank height shimmed, everything on here. This is going to be Mike's motor. And then put the whole thing, prop everything right in his new plane, the new red Cardinal that he's got. And then once this is available as a test unit, then we're going to start testing at Laser 70. So there'll be some cool stuff coming up in the next 2 weeks. If he gets it buffed. It's buffed? Okay. Right. Don't you bring a plane out half buffed or anything.
Oh, no.
We don't go for that stuff.
It's ready. It's ready.
Okay. And that was really nice and good flying Brodak Nova kit.
Yeah.
An FP40.
35. What do you need?
35, all right.
No. I was just because I've been there a few times for the weekend.
Sato 72 just purring up a storm. Now we're going to get this motor ready, and at the end of the day, put it right in Mike's plane. Yeah, we've lucked out, had a pretty decent day here. But within the next week or so, we'll have Mike's plane ready to go. It's really nice to be able to get the motor all tuned in and everything. Before you have to go fly that. We're going to be doing that first flight day for Mike. I know he loves that. And again, at the end of the day, just having this little charging station where everything plugs in for one convenient, 4 or 5 hour period, and everything's ready to go again for another flying day. Now we're just waiting for paint to dry the last couple of days. Actually, we could start sanding out the tail for a final coat of clear. Just some of the things we need to put all the electronics in the plane. I've been waiting to do that. We need to pull all the tape off the de-icer boot, but the biggest thing is we're waiting for the Brodak Silver, the new color silver from Randolph, and then we'll of course aggressively work on backmasking all the trim and getting all our do a little test and see how this silver is going to look out in the bright sun. So here we are in the shop. Chris Cox comes all the way from Canada, stays with Zambelli, hangs out with Zambelli for a day, and then he comes over here and the bird's drinking all his coffee.
Drinking my coffee. Oh.
Tricky, we can give you your own cup if you really play your cards right.
You gotta get him a girl. That's what you gotta get.
He needs a woman.
He needs a woman. Such a nice bird.
Chicky.
Hey, yes.
He's going to be the mascot. The nose art on a B-25 is going to be...
He likes his coffee black.
He likes his... Chris, he makes me crazy all day long while I'm doing stuff around.
Just trying to think of all the cleaning up that goes on around here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, once a week we have what we call mop-up time.
Where do you go?
Okay, so Chris Cox is here from Canada. And one of the things Chris came in, the reason he said he came here, and we're going to be honest about this. Chris is not going to want me to tell his story, but he said the one thing about Vancouver, it never snows in Vancouver. And he said, Wendy, here's a picture of Chris on the first flight of his new plane, flying a plane that looks just like a snow shovel.
That's the only time it's ever snowed.
Here's a picture of Ken Clapson flying with him, with lying Ken Clapson, who says it never snows. Anyway, it really doesn't always snow, but anyway. Give me the caption. This is Alan with a firecracker.
That's Alan.
Alan Ressinger. Give me a little history of the plane.
That's last year's airplane.
Okay, Brian Ether's plane.
Brian Ether's is probably about the 5th firecracker Alan's actually built. That one's
Okay.
with the Brodak. I think it's the first one he did Brodak, and what really impressed him was I think all the trim colors he says, there's 3
Yeah.
different trims. He did that in one day.
Wow. Remember I told you that?
Yeah.
Uh-oh, the boss is here. No Karen jokes. Karen just walks in.
Hi, Karen.
All right, give me the... Now, this is the reason we're putting these on video.
Karen.
You have to be Chris.
I'm Chris.
This is...
Nice to meet you. Hello.
This is... Wait, we got to kiss Karen. Hold on.
Absolutely.
He's after a nice big wet, juicy kiss from Karen. He's going to tell us about this. This is Behringer's design.
It's Behringer's design from France. Sato
Okay.
56 for power. GV Sportster.
Okay, it's called a Sportster. We have
It's the
plans for this,
Sportster.
which you supplied us
It's
with.
the extended one. It's
Okay.
not like the little
The short one.
R1 and R2, I guess.
Yeah. And it's got little carbon fiber wheel pants that Behringer made.
Carbon wheel pants, carbon cowl. It's a geodetic wing with molded leading edge, molded fuselage. It's got
You mold the shell so that the sheeting has the curve
that's
in
correct.
it.
So it's just a round shell, round
It's all
bulkhead.
hollow inside and everything.
We molded our own carbon bell cranks for that one, a la
Okay.
Behringer. So
Now this is the
Fly.
field with. Let's see if you can see who's flying. Is that Alan flying?
Some loser there. I don't know. Oh, it's
Yeah.
me. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, you were right. and here he goes for a wing over. Oh, no! Oh. And he said he may come to the Nats this year just to show all these dopey Americans how good the Canadians are flying lately.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And here he goes for another wing over. Nice set of pictures anyway.
Anyway.
And this thing flies very well, by the way.
Well, it's I'm still working with it. We're still working with it. That one's mine, and that's Alan holding him.
Now, you guys built two together, or?
We built them at the same time.
Okay, and you're like one guy
I was
molded
doing the
the
wing,
parts.
and he was making the fuselage,
Okay.
and we're doing this.
And in Canada, there's no dopey builder or model rule or anything, so who cares, you know?
Well, it's a
Because
good,
Alan is known to be a
It's a
good
group-
craftsman, and I'm not
Oh,
so
Alan
sure
is-
about you, you know, that...
Alan's
Anyway, who's the better craftsman, you or Alan?
I would say Alan.
Ah, Alan! He's letting you have it, Alan!
Put it this way, Alan taught me everything he knows.
Oh, man, we're on his case. Alan, I'm going to send Alan a copy of the video. Anyway, he's got the sport. Now one side, it's upside down, is
Yeah,
that...
he screwed up with the stencil, I'm figuring.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, and whose is lighter?
So,
We heard a real story about now. You built the two wings and gave Alan the one that was heavy and warped, and you kept
That's
the
right.
light straight one.
well, it didn't,
Oh, yeah.
it wasn't purpose on
Friends
purpose
like
because
Chris.
Alan flies in the wrong direction, so
Oh,
you had to build it
reason
in a
enough,
certain way,
yeah.
see,
Yeah, well, a man that flies left-handed. We have one standing right here.
yeah, Sato 56 in the front there.
Yeah, they're
Mine-
both 56s.
they're both 56s, 2.5 ounces of fuel will get you through lots of fuel.
Okay.
And-
And you have little Behringer tanks, which Chris is going to make me a Behringer tank,
Little tanks.
so we can test it on our. Make it more than 2 ounces, because I'm using a 72.
Oh,
Make it 3.5.
okay. Both aircraft are around 53 ounces.
Okay, they're really light construction if you look at the plans.
By the time you put the tip weight and everything else, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you don't have gear and a wing to deal with. They're only out about 2 inches, so what, 3 inches?
How's that? What's that?
Now, how far out of the gear? You don't need
Oh.
to deal with all the webbing and
Well,
everything.
spaced apart?
Yeah, what, 12
Well, the
inches?
fuselage is 6 inches diameter.
So it's about 12 inches, maybe.
Yeah,
Okay.
12 or 13. Yeah.
Not terribly far.
There they are. They're facing off there, getting ready to do battle.
Look like they're like kissing garamis or something. Now, while Chris wasn't here, we called up Alan Ressinger and asked him, who's the best looking guy in Canada? And Alan was pretty emphatic that he is. Is that true, Chris?
Alan's a pretty classy guy. Pretty classy guy.
Not that. We had a great time with Chris Cox and all his adventures, but it's time to get back to work. Of course, I've got a little help here buffing out my plane. Hey! You're gonna go live in Canada where it's cold all the time if you don't be good. Hey! Oh, God. You remember not long ago we had some nice pictures from James Mills. He's the proud father of a child, of course, a son. And he told me he's going to send me some pictures of his workshop. Somebody did a real nice job here, artistically painted the walls. Now what? Here's the deal, James. Now that you have the baby's room done, you got to get your workshop and paint pictures of Wendy and Chris Cox and Alan Ressinger and everybody up on the wall. That is definitely cool. Anyway, Proud Papa. We sent some of these into Stunt News. We'll see if Tom publishes them as is or if he edits out somebody's face. Anyway, thanks for the photos. James Mills. Proud Daddy. And Proud Mommy, of course. Last tape we had painted what amounts to be simulated de-icer boots. We have the landing lights masked in here, so the next step is going to be a very, very gingerly removing of the tape and the tin foil, and see if we've got the look that we're after. Do is I want to outline these little scoops so they have a lip or an edge, and then airbrush in the center with some black so it kind of looks three-dimensional. So first thing I have to do is cut some tape about 1/16 of an inch, although an 1/8 inch tape won't bend that tightly. So what I do is just lay some green tape down on the glass. I've marked it out for about 1/16 of an inch with 2 pen dots. Lines get this thin, it can be a little frustrating or challenging depending on your mood of the day. But this will add a nice little accent stripe. We'd like this to be silver. So I'm trying to bend around the outer edge. Like I said, this is always frustrating. backmask this up. And then I want to airbrush in some black to try to create the illusion that this is a scoop. And the idea is to go dark around the edge but leave the center just highlighted ever so slightly. Just the very center is just highlighted just a little bit. See, just that little highlight. When the clear hits that, that'll really pop out just a little bit. Anyway, we got to do the two center ones. We'll do those off camera, and we got to do somewhere in here. There's the landing lights. We got to backmask the landing lights. We're going to do something. I'm going to try to put a little bit of white in the landing light. Try to make it look like it's a well, simulate the landing light anyway. So the idea is just to leave a highlight of silver right in the middle so it looks like what it would look like if it were three-dimensional. The thing is, I'm going to do the landing lights with a little bit of white. I'm going to backmask this the same way and then just try to hit this with white so it kind of looks three-dimensional. It looks like a light. This is supposed to simulate a landing light. Once this dries, I'm going to put just a little fogging of blue around the edge. Maybe some Brodak Candy Apple blue right around the edge. So it has the look of, well, of a light. So while this is drying, I'll mix up the little bit of Candy Apple blue that I want to put in the landing light. And then when this is still all masked off, when I'm happy with it, I want to put one coat of clear on everything. Just in case when I put the tape back over this to backmask it, I don't want to pull up any of these colors or anything that's airbrushed. A piece of tape can ruin the little fogging edge. So it's always good when you're done is just put one coat of clear on it. You want just a hint, just a slight hint of blue. And it's left light right in the center. The idea is to get it darker around the edge and just the center just very light. And once you think about how you like it, just seal it with some clear. Move down to the next one. Well, is that the tape dry? I don't want to get rough edges if I don't have to, even though this is going to all get outlined with ink. And now that's got to dry. Now while that's drying, I have a little bit of time here. I wanted to take the Typhoon, since what we've done, since about the last time we've really flown a plane, we took the 91 out. Give that a rest. We want to run the 72 in here for a while. And because we haven't charged the battery in the Z-Tron, or we haven't done any of the, the maintenance in here, I want to pull this whole front end apart. Make sure that none of the wires are loose. Make sure we put a fresh battery in here. Test the Z-Tron again. Make sure everything's ready, because we may get to fly it this weekend. We're going to try to get some flying in. Well, we hope the weather's going to stay nice. But again, it sat over the winter. And another thing, it's pretty sad. Chris Cox was here. We pulled the plane. We're going to flat these tires off from sitting over the winter, so needless to say, we'll get a new set of wheels on here. But that's just from sitting. Not unbelievable? Anyway, it's always good, and a lot of people, I think one of the things they shortchange themselves on is not doing the maintenance in the beginning of every season. Now, we're coming up on the beginning of the season. It's worth spending a couple hours anyway. Clean this all up, polish it, get some wax on it. Make sure we don't have anything loose, or the tubing, replace the tubing. A little maintenance goes a long way. Every spring, I'm always amazed at how many little things. You take the tubing out and you see there's spots where the tubing's been rubbing on the cowling and different things like that. In this case, I had adjusted this linkage in a kind of a haphazard way. I'm gonna correct this. See how much play is in this linkage? I want to take advantage of the fact that it's not flying season yet. I can take care of that. Do some maintenance on the nose here. And then the last thing of the day, maybe go outside and get a test run on the motor, make sure there's no junk in the tank or anything that is going to ruin our first day out at the field. But once the flying season starts, I hate to lose flying time. I can do all the maintenance I want in the cellar, but once I get to the field, I don't like to have to do this kind of thing, even taking a cowling off the... I like to just relax and enjoy the day of flying, and this really helps me do it, getting all the maintenance done, especially while we're waiting for paint to dry. One of the things I learned is when a servo sits over the winter like this, it seems like, well, it was in a cold area. It seems like it's like it's in slow motion now. Now I just wonder if there's grease on the gears or something that, not sure. Anyway, once we run this, we'll find out. It's always good to check this stuff before you get to the field. What a pain to do this after you're at the field. Well, we are basically ready to start the, whatever this is going to be, the 2002 flying season. Rich has the field at Palisades Park all set up, and one day next week he's going to try to clip a morning, go out there and get a couple flights and get back into flying the old Typhoon. So we got a call from Randolph, and they're hoping later this week or early next week we're going to have our B25 silver, special silver paint. So my objective was, I thought, well, I've gone pretty much as far. There's probably a couple little other things I could do on this. I could probably paint the windows, all the glass, and I really don't want to rush this. This is not a project that I'm trying to get done at a certain date, or I'm doing it because I want to do it when I want to do it. And one of the things I do have the opportunity now, since Mike has his plane all buffed out, the Red Cardinal is all ready to go, one of the things, the motor that's in there now, he's going to take the motor and all of the hardware right out of it and plug it right into his plane. The needle valve set, the carburetor set, everything ready to go. So I thought, well, we've been waiting a long time for this. I wanted to test that laser engine out. We've been waiting a long, long time because there's so many projects going on. And let me explain one of the things I want to accomplish with this laser engine, because we're basically finished here. We're just going to wait until we get our silver paint before we go on. And then by backmasking, I don't want to backmask ahead of time. I want to backmask the morning of the day that I'm going to paint this. We don't want the tape to stay on even one day more than it has to. And I guess the other little job I could do if I was really going to be real aggressive about this, I could mount up all the servos and things in the wing. That's only one day's work though, so it hardly pays. But these little guys, now I just have to take the thin tape off. Kind of like the way that worked out. Now, we may want to accent these with some ink lines or some rivets or something, I'm not sure. But for right now, that looks like that's going to be, add one more detail, one more little step. And I'm thinking probably before we finish this project, everything inside the cowlings will get painted black too. Not sure. But this part of it worked out very well. Now, I want to go over this. It only take a minute, but it's something that's pretty significant that I think it's something that may have some general interest. Now, Elliott Scott provided us this test engine. This was a while back. And we just haven't had time. It's just, there's only so many hours in the day. But we want to make some attempt today when I've looked at this and fondled it and wanted to test it. I've run it, of course, on the bench. It runs beautifully, but I've never had it in a plane. Now, the thing I want to learn from it is, see, on a Sato, this carburetor is down about here. And I want to see now, of course, I already have a tank in Tradition that's lower than the carburetor. What I like about this is if this were inverted, you could reach in and choke the engine. And also, if it flooded, it would drool out, as opposed to on a Sato where it points up, it just runs into the engine and floods it out. So I just thought it would be an interesting test. Notice the size of the motor mounts. I have to drill some holes in here that'll match up to our test plane, or come up with some kind of clamping system. I don't know yet. We're probably going to have to cut some material away to make room for this. And if it doesn't fit, then we're just going to have to wait. But I really wanted to spend some part of the day, especially while we're waiting for our paint to come in. This has a lot of neat features, and look how narrow it is. That's one of the neat features. You could build a really cool cowling around it. But because we're not into the serious part of the flying season yet, we're in the part where I just enjoy testing things and hanging out with everybody and sharing our winter stories anyway. Having this in a plane, if I can get it in by the weekend, if I'm going to get it in today, and get some flying, this will be a lot of fun. And Les Demet just got his Jet 60 today. He's got a Jet 60 to break in, so maybe if I get this in a plane and it's unflyable, we can just go up there and run it, flip it inverted, and see if it goes richer or leaner or whatever. It'll be an interesting day. I really think this is some special piece of work here. And again, special thanks to Elliott Scott, who provided us with this. Now, if you remember, we've used this not only for testing motors, but for testing a Zetron. In fact, we still have some of the guts, the switch and everything is in there. We still have the hookup for the servo. But what this did, it allowed Mike to get a lot of experience and time on this motor that this motor should be. Let's hope it's ready to go when we go to test fly his plane, which I hope is going to be next week. It should be all set. The last couple of flights we had on it, it just ran like a Rolex watch. Laser directions, it specifically says to mount the tank exactly with the needle valve, and I think we're going to be able to weigh it, or I can modify this somehow to get the tank right up here, because this laser engine, of course, is a taller engine due to the way it's made. But it'll be an interesting, and if it doesn't work out or it doesn't fit, I'm not going to lose any sleep. Either way, I have to take this powertrain out and give it to Mike tonight. Mike is ready. He's about as excited as I've ever seen a human being. Make sure always that we have a serrated washer, that we have a lock nut. In fact, I don't see the lock nut. Mikey, you didn't put the lock nut back. See, I can blame Mike. He's not here. But anyway, one of the other things is our clamping mount system. Again, just working to perfection. That is the one thing that's come out of this that I think you could apply to almost any model. It just works perfectly. And in a case like this, where you want to have several different motors in a plane, or be able to slide them forward, slide them back, do various things, it's only a matter of a minute or so. Now, the reason I wanted to do this is I wanted to ultimately make a Sato where the carburetor is right up in the back here. I just thought I didn't want to have Jimmy or Mike or somebody spend a lot of time and energy and to get that and then find out it didn't work. So I figured by trying a laser, I can kill two birds with one stone. I killed two lasers with one stone here. And I really do like the friendliness of that motor when I ran it on the bench. Just made me want to go flying, if you know what I mean. There's just something about having a nice friendly motor package that you get up in the morning having your coffee and you're already thinking about the flaying time. Assuming we get some this week. But summer is coming, the fish are moving around. The only guy still has it cold is Ken Clapson. If I remember right. Okay. Now the thing is to look in this little cavern and see if this puppy will fit in here conveniently without, I certainly don't want to make, and if it doesn't, I'll just wait. There's no problem. It's a pretty well-worn interior, but this believe me, has served us well. We're looking at basically a 16-year-old model that's still flying every day. In theory, at some point in time, and of course it's just a pipe dream right now, let's just measure this up. If the mounts are level, see the intake is exactly the same, almost the same height. But having a carburetor down here, of course, it means I have to put the carburetor further up here. But I'm hoping that someday I can machine a piece or make a piece that'll somehow fit onto here, because it just makes the running of the motor, the starting, the fact that because this is upside down, when you choke it or somehow and it just floods the motor. This is, well, again, it's all pipe dreams until you see if it works, but we're gonna have an opportunity here to work with this, assuming we can get this in, and learn something. And if we don't learn anything, what's the harm? We'll just order up another 72, put another 72 in there. Now it looks like I'm going to have to do some cutting and some cutting. It's going to be more involved of a job than I thought, but it'll be worth getting it in there and grinding some material right that'll drop right down on the mounts. Anyway, it looks like it's going to be doable, but now the trick is going to be, how do I get the tank in here? Well, what I'm going to do is maybe cut this whole section out and lay the tank right in here. Again, I got to kind of look at this from a lot of angles, get the motor in first, do some measuring. It's going to be a little more involved than I thought it was, but, you know, that's why we go to the moon, because it's difficult, not because it's easy. Or we go to Laserville. One of the dirtiest parts of this job, we want to gut it out and, in effect, make a tank box. This usually makes people crazy when they see me doing this, and when it's all done, they go, oh, that's cool. But if you want to have this a test plane, it's got to be, you know, that you can, kind of flexible, that you can use it for a lot of different things. And since we already won the Concourse Award with this plane, and that was a lot of years ago, it's serving us well. I'm looking at what Mike did back here with the landing gear. He broke the landing gear, stripped it or something. No wonder he didn't want to bring me this plane before. Anyway, we got to make a tank box here, the height of the laser carburetor. And we got to cut quite a bit of material away to make room for the carburetor, but again, that's what's good about having a test model. We don't really have to get too nervous about making this pretty. Then the next thing is we're going to have to cut away enough material for the muffler. I'm doing this step by step. I have the motor that the bolts line up, the carburetor, the muffler, and then try to get the tank level with the middle of the needle valve. If we can do that, great. If we can't, we're going to try to get it as close as we can. I have the tank shim in, and the tank shim for this motor is almost 1.5 inches. So I just made a block. I'm going to just tack glue that in there with some epoxy. I had to cut quite a bit of way to rotate the carburetor and the muffler, but I'm going to try to get all of this final fix that I have air flowing through here and then whatnot. Find handy whenever I'm having to do this kind of work, and some fresh air to just blow the dust away. This really is messy work. Funnily enough, that's how high that shim has to be. I'm going to make a little tank floor in here and then modify that little piece of a cowling that we had. Now you can see it almost looks ridiculous to see the tank up this high, but That's where it needs to be level. And of course, that's what the learning experience is all about. If you don't try these things, if you just take the other people's word for them, then you find out the other people, maybe they didn't even do the test either. But this will give us a real good knowledge base. Actually, from this engine, I hope we learn if we're going to be able to modify the Satos in a way it'll just be a lot of fun. I'm even wondering, as I'm doing this, if I could plug that right in, just remachine the Sato, the case of the engine, and just plug that right in, similar to the way they've done it, make a little bracket or something. Anyway, but that's the learning experience. Now the next thing is I've fuel-proofed all this with 3 or 4 coats of CA. Tried to make this nose rigid, of course. Next thing is I have to make the little mounting pads, and 2 of the blind nuts are already out here. I'm going to have to figure out if I can get them back in there, or if I can't, have to cut a piece off the top and put a plate in there or something. Again, it's not an appearance thing. I just want it to be totally rigid. And actually, even though it's a sloppy installation, I think it'll let us do the testing that we want to do. Of course, we have one choice we don't have with the Sato. We can just reach in and just choke it, basically. Kind of neat that everything tucks in here. Everything's nice and square. And you can reach in and choke it from that angle. Again, if we were making a plane from scratch, or one that was a fancy one, we'd certainly be able to make a cowling that swooped around here. But you really don't have anything hanging out the plane. Now, little by little, we're getting our Air Force ready for the upcoming flying season. I got that laser loaded into the car for this weekend, which, if we get some weather, highly unlikely since it's been kind of a lousy week. I'm glad we're not doing any painting. But the next step I want to do on this project, and I try to keep track of, I try to use the time as efficiently as possible. The red stab and elevator pieces are ready for a sand out, so because we're suffering through some more bad weather. Even if we had to paint by now, today would not be a good painting day, but I figure it's a good time to get some 1200 sandpaper out and get these all sanded down. See how that clear has dried up. Again, as soon as we get the silver paint, we're going to backmask, get that on, and start the final, what I hope is going to be the final detailing on all these parts. This has been drying about a week, and that's usually plenty of time to get a reasonably good sand out on it. Now, just looking at this up close, you can see that we've put this coat on relatively dry. It's picked up some dust, among other things. This is usually what it would look like after, 2-3 coats of clear, depending. What I always like to do now, I'm trying to get a nice straight piece here, some 1200 sandpaper. If you use 600, the problem is spray the sandpaper and spray the thing you're going to sand. The problem if you use 600 is it'll leave little microscopic scratches that some people don't see, but I see. And since I'm trying to do the best I possibly can, I certainly don't want to compromise at this point in time after so many 100 hours of work. I don't want to compromise anything. Now remember, we're trying to keep the tail of this, actually the tail and the bottom of this plane as light as possible, up to some reasonable point that maybe we'd have a mechanical failure or something. But I've really, especially the stab and elevators, have a minimum amount of paint, so I suspect I may go through. Now what'll happen, if I do go through for some reason, I'll just put another coat of clear on. But then I know I'm at the end of my buffing. I'm at the end of my sanding. As soon as I see an ink line even start to disappear, I know I'm close. Now, initially, there'll be little moon craters and little ditches where the ink lines are. Perfectly normal. This is what I wanted to show. But as we start it, halfway through, this can be time consuming at best, and it's just something. I usually get up a couple videos or wings on the TV or something. This is especially good to do if you have your best friend comes over for a visit. and you hand them the sandpaper, and you hand them and then you go have a pizza. The kind of friends I have, they bring their planes and then they go for a pizza, so I don't know that we're working on this. But anyway, Mikey's got his plane ready to put the motor in. We've got the motor out. We're just waiting here. It may even be today that we'll get our silver paint, and then I don't want to backmask anything and we'll have no double paint anywhere on the plane. I don't want to take any chances at all that this plane is coming out heavy enough as it is. Now, here's the final test. Do you still see there's a few little moon craters? Yep. Okay, one more sanding, but eventually it's all going to look like this. You start out with a surface that looks similar to this. You get some of the moon craters out, but at some point in time you've got all of the moon craters out. And so the minute you do, you stop. You don't want to you'll eventually sand it right back down to raw wood. So knowing exactly where to start and where to stop is a good thing. Now, if I happen to go through on any part, very simple, stop, fix the ink line, put another coat of clear on. So in essence, the ink kind of gives you a little warning that, hey, you're getting into the part of this where it's a problem. Now, the other thing, if at any point in time you see even the slightest drop of color coming out in the M600, even just one drop, stop, because otherwise you've got to backmask a piece, repaint it. It really gets labor intensive. But if you stop and put clear on it, a lot of times you can save having to do the repaint. So now this is the tip-off. Once a part is sanded, if you see you're going through the ink lines, whoops, time to stop. That's all we can sand it before we put another coat of clear on there. And so I obviously want to touch up the ink line. And then when all the parts are sanded, that'll blend right in. Now, of course, I'm going to do all the stab and elevator parts here and then do all the clear in one shot. So I'll do the rest I've got another, what happens? We've got another one right here to do, but once you get into the rhythm, it goes quickly. I'm just hoping we're going to have a day that I can shoot the clear. If not, I'll put it aside and wait for the first day to anything with clear, I want the humidity to be really minimal. Now, where I have some real thin areas and where I've sanded through right on the edge, I just put a little bit of the red in the airbrush. Backmask right at an ink line. Now, what this is ensuring that I have is I know that I don't have decoupage. I don't have 20 or 30 extra coats of clear and that the plane's, especially on the tail here, I am really trying to get this on micro thin. Now once this dries, of course, once I sand all the parts, I'm hoping the weather's going to be good enough that I can get another coat of clear in here. But I'm hoping then when I get to this area, I'll give it 2 or 3 extra coats of clear and just let it blend right in. And this is the only way I know of to get that finish on ultra thin. See, I just backmask right up to the ink line, and once you put the clear on there, that's really a good way. That's one of the nice benefits of having some ink lines on there. It makes touch-ups, if you're striving for that ultralight finish, it makes a nice place to end that little airbrush line. Good trick. I suspect the stab and elevators will be a very and I'll do most of this off camera, really just time-consuming part to do because they're delicate, it's awkward to handle, and I just can't even imagine trying to make, I mean, like when they built the original ballerina, I can imagine how vulnerable these rudders were. But just having it, this much of the plane take apart is really, in this right now, is a day you make up time. And you can see what happens over the rivets. You always have little moon craters where the rivets are. As soon as you see a rivet disappear, you know you can't sand anymore and you need another coat of clear. It's one way of ensuring you're not putting on a ton of extra clear. The idea here is to get just the minimum. I've been trying several different ways of holding this to work on the rudder, and it's, at best, it's difficult, but what I did, and I guess you could do this on some other planes with some other similar things, is just get the weight on the pad, and I'm holding a stab. And it looks like it's clearing up out there. We may get some painting this afternoon, so I'm really trying to get rushed through this. It's so important in my case, because of the way the weather is around here, that I'm always ready that on a good day I can get some painting done, on a day when there's no humidity and possibly, heaven forbid, even a little sunshine. Believe it or not, the day cleared up. We didn't get any real rain. And, these fish are getting hungry. It's almost time to feed the fish here. Anyway, we're going to try to get some clear on that, and that's about all we're going to be able to get done today. Because we have our yard maintenance to do, and Karen is just dying to see me do the yard maintenance. The look of, like we're going to have some nice weather here soon. Anyway. I wanted to get a close-up of, after we get that all sanded, then you can see there's still a few little moon craters, a few little touch-up spots. And I'm hoping this, because of the weight factor, on a more traditional plane, I would just be thinking, just put another coat of clear on. This one I'm trying to conserve it, if I can. Always try to put a little bit extra over where I know the touch-ups are, because I know the paint is thin there. Even though I've gone back and forth 4 or 5 times, this is essentially just one wet coat. And tomorrow we'll be able, I hope, either sand it down, look for some more flaws, or what I hope tomorrow is we can go flying. Now we also got today, we're going to run this in later, this is Les Demet's brand new, I'm waiting for him to get here, brand new Jet 60, ready for break-in. We put a little sprue on our break-in stand. Oh, I love when you're new. Anyway, we're going to wait for that, but this is the best part. See, being windy, some days it's fun, some days it's tragic. Today it's, rather than having all the fun we always have, we have to distribute this on our lawn, see? So today is, Karen doesn't seem to understand. There's days, it's not fun to be windy today, this yard work stuff, but the truth is, it's too windy to fly, and it's a good day to get this done, and this will open up some time this weekend for us to go flying. But this, waiting right now, I guess we'll do it off camera. Les gets here, we'll run his jet. He's been very aggressive about getting stuff, cranking in on having his plane ready. You know, I moan and groan about all this yard work, but boy, when it comes to sitting back, relaxing, now Les Demet and I have been sitting out on the back deck the last couple of days, eating pizza and eating buttered rolls and stuff, just having a great time. Pond water, you can always tell in the spring it starts to get nice and clear as the filter starts to kick in. We're going to get our waterfalls going very soon. Spring is in the air. Boy, I'm telling you, with all the stuff we have to... It's just never been a better time to be alive. There's so many... I get up in the morning, I don't even know what I want to do. It's fun every day. Being a Baltimore Oriole, it isn't fun every day. Some days I have to do yard work. I have to eat my roast beef. Bertnowski, you're not the only one that doesn't have fun every day. Go do your yard work. Get that grass pruned up. So Karen will love you more. How can she love me more than she does? I'll show you what the most fun you can have in model aviation is. Gorham's Silver Polish. A paper towel. A spot on the plane for a little test. They've already got it all sanded out with 1200, of course. Find a little spot and see if the paint's gonna shine. Now, if you do this the day after you paint or 2 days after, sometimes it's better to let it sit a while, depending on how you've mixed the paint and what the shop conditions are, but there's just no substitute for after a nice weekend of yard work, coming home and seeing buffed out paint. If possible, I always try to work in a swirl like this, not all in one motion. I don't want to go back and forth. But it looks like we're going to have a lucky day. It looks like it's our lucky day. Look at that. Thank you, John Brodak. And boy, now if only my silver paint would come. Oh, in the meantime, I can get this tail buffed out, get some other little details done, but that's the miracle of Gorham's. They're just, I've never found a substitute, and maybe we never will. It's a little bit difficult to do here is to have this lay, and I'm trying to find ways of, see, when you hold this, it's real, like, wants to keep moving around. So I've tried putting padding and a bunch of towels on the end of the table as one way of holding it. Now I can press down. If I'm holding it here and I press down, I'm putting a strain on this that I really don't want to put on. But this is probably the most awkward part I've ever worked on, but it's delicate. It's hard to get the corners and edges and angles, but I'm sure when it's all buffed out later today, I'll be all thrilled to death. Again, if you've never used Gorham's, you're in for a little bit of a treat. Sand it with 1200, make sure it's dead flat, you don't have any or very few moon craters. Pick one little spot, use a circular motion. Once you get into the rhythm of it, you can basically watch TV or watch Wings or whatever's on. You don't even have to look at the part while you're doing it, except in the case of this tail section, it's really vulnerable. Yeah, we'll do the rest of this off camera. This is just going to be time consuming today. It'll just be a buffing day. What I wanted to try to do here today, it's pretty simple. Spent the other day putting this laser in the plane. We've had this motor for over a year, and I kind of feel a little bit guilty that I haven't used it since then. I have never had it in a plane and had it running up till right now. And we did this, well, it's somewhere earlier on in the tape. We took our 17, I don't know, I'm afraid to count how old this plane is, made in 86. This is 02. Yeah, it's an old plane. In plane years, it's as old as I am. What I want to do, I want to fuel it up, run it once on the ground, hopefully then flush out whatever's in the fuel line so I don't... The thing that I want to avoid is having a lean run on the first flight. Kind of a neat installation. I kind of like the idea the way this needle valve sits on the side. Kind of convenient. Of course, the thing that's convenient is you can choke it. And again, the idea of developing this is we're going to try to find a way to do this to a Sato. Make some kind of an intake track right on the back of the engine. Some of the other reasons why this will be real productive is I don't want to get to the field and then find out, for instance, there was a dead bug or something in the fuel line, get a lean run on a motor. If we're going to have a problem, it's just more convenient to have it right here and right now. And as many times as I've done this, I've said, oh yeah, that's a perfect installation. Yeah, everything's tight. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Get to the field. And it isn't. So it'll be well worth our time. Run a tank of fuel through here. I just love the way this motor sits in the plane with the exhaust coming out the bottom. It's kind of like a rear exhaust two-stroke, kind of. And I wish we would have had more runtime on this earlier, but them's the brakes. So, let's figure this out. How do we want to do this? Yeah, you can just reach in there and choke it, and if it floods, it just drains on the ground, so it doesn't flood the engine to where you blow the spinner apart. Ooh. That's kind of cool. You don't even have to choke it. Well, this certainly was interesting. That's the first time we've ever had the laser in an airplane. And we're going to try to get out this weekend again. Just so many things to do, so many things to test. Every one of them is an adventure. Every one of them is fun. And this I'm really looking forward to flying. Now, if I could figure a way of retrofitting that into the Typhoon, hey, or if the next plane I build, if I like that motor, I just like having everything. And if you ever want to figure out what the best motor in model aviation is, easy, buy them all. Ask Karen, she'll tell you. She likes signing that Visa card at the end of the month. Anyway, I think this is ready to go flying. Well, with everything done, it's such a nice day. I'm going for a motorcycle ride with Bobby Hunt. Today, one of the things I can do is paint the black back here. I'm looking for little details to do because I'm expecting any day to get the real silver paint. And I don't want to back mask everything and then have the tape sitting on the plane for 3 days. So this is something I can do today while I'm waiting. I want to back mask this to make the little gunners, the little bellows that normally would be, I guess, canvas or rubber or whatever. And I want to leave a very small outline of silver there. I originally was going to try to leave a ring of silver around here, and then I changed my mind when I looked at the drawings. It looks like this bellows has, in a real plane, it's obviously not this shape. I think this will just be black out here. It'll be a little bit nicer. So what I'm going to do is put the tin foil around here, airbrush this in black, and that'll be one little step we have out of the way also. I can look around a couple other little things I can do today. Okay, just one more little detail. There are a couple other little details we can work on here. But believe me, waiting for this silver paint is testing my patience, but I'm getting a lot of little other stuff done in the meantime. As long as I had a little time this afternoon, and you never know when you're going to get these little gaps, one of the things I wanted to do is pick away at some of the little flaws in the silver and put a final coat of silver on here. Well, to do that, of course, I have to backmask the leading edge and the stars and bars. Not a big deal, to be sure, but the point that I wanted to make here is we're in a little bit different situation than normal. Normally, if we had put these on without an airbrush, with a normal spray gun, the chemical bond would be a lot better. Now, with an airbrush, you really never get that chemical bond that you would like to have. So what I do is every time I take a piece of tape and put it down, and what I'll do, I'll outline this with 1/8" tape first. Put it on my shirt or on a towel, anything. Otherwise, if you put tape, even this blue tape, which isn't very sticky, on a part that's been airbrushed, sometimes you'll just pull up the tape. You'll pull up the paint, pull up the tape. You can tell I've been sanding silver too long here. But anyway, what this is going to allow me to do is pick up a lot of little flaws. In fact, I just see another one as I'm looking around. Through all this time and all this, I found a couple of spots in the nacelles I didn't like. I laid a coat of Brodak primer down in the fillets just as an extra. In fact, what I thought about doing, I don't know if I'm going to do this yet. Let me see what the weather's like later today. What I thought I'd do, I have that little sample of the silver, this new B25 silver, and I could do a little test on one of the smaller parts and see how I like it, but I want to get, here's another little thing that could be filled in. And it's amazing, it just never ends with how many times you can do this over and over and over again. And every time you do it, you find things that you didn't find the first time around.
If you're not there,
How about that beat? How about that beat? If you tell him Bob ain't begun to do. Wait a minute, John. Do I detect a...
There's just no substitute for pressing that tape up against your shirt or on a towel, because... And there's no substitute for saying a few prayers right now that we don't pull up the stars and bars. Anyway, we're going to be ready to do our little test here momentarily. Now before I spray this, what I thought I'd do, I have this little test sample of paint. I wanted to get a look at first, or get an idea of if it was going to have to go over silver, or maybe we could use it in the future for the base coat and then just go over it with a last coat. I don't even know it's expensive paint. But I needed to do a little test. I need to take probably the nose section, the little nose wheel door, sand that down and see what the coverage looks like. Just get some rough idea. This is the most appropriate part right here. It'll just be a 5-minute sand. I'll sand it down. I'll mix up that little test sample of paint and just get a look at what it's going to look like when it's painted on there. I also, if I still have a little bit of time, I could detail out the gear a little bit. A couple of other things. The thing is, I just don't like to waste any time. I try to work right to the end of each day. It's good if you're going to do a test. A couple little rules of thumb that I have. Do it on an outboard wing. Do it on the nose. In this case, we know we're going to need nose weight in this plane. So even if we have an extra coat of paint on the nose, it's not going to matter. But for instance, what I wouldn't want to do right now is put an extra coat of paint anywhere behind the CG. That would be an absolute, another nail in our tail-heavy coffin here. Anyway, a little test, and this will be a good test. And this sample that they gave me, maybe it'll... And what I really want to determine is, do I have to go over the silver, or can I go over a sanded silver? And if it is, then I can get off a little extra weight, which will be real nice. Boy, I just wish there was more things that I could be drilling holes in here or something. Unfortunately, any twin-engine plane just There's just more parts. It's like having twins. There's more diapers. There's more everything. There's just more. And more weighs more. Now the coverage is about exactly the same as the other silver, but the paint is twice as bright. It really glows. Now, as part of the test, what I'm going to try, because I went over a part that was sanded, and I want to see if I go over a part that's silver, if it gets a little brighter. Second of all, of course, I'll need less total paint, but I'll just back mask the red. And this part is already in what amounts to be Brodax silver. I think with that test sample, I might be able to get a few more of these parts painted, because I have 4 ounces of test paint, so I'll see how many of these little parts. I also need to do that little piece in the back, that tail piece where the glass is going to be, and then I could start doing the glass, actually. This will be a real good test to see how this color looks when we go over the base coat of silver, which probably is what we're going to wind up doing. Again, we're trying real carefully not to pull up any of this airbrush paint by taking as much of the stick out of the tape as we can and contacting it on a very small footprint here if possible. And even doing all that, sometimes when you airbrush, you just don't get that bond, but we'll see. The one thing we're able to do very easily with any Brodax coat is touch up, do little spot repairs, blends in perfectly. Like with any metallic paint, this silver, notice I'm using it in this Wilhelm Wara gun. You've got to constantly, because it looks like pearlescent in it, there's some metallic, you really have to keep shaking it. Now this, I want to go over the silver, and I want to get some idea. If nothing else, this will save us paint. And you never have to worry if you can't see the difference. I mean, you'll see the difference instantly. The flakes in this silver are 5 times as big. The little pearl backdrop color. Now I'm putting this on real light. Just want to see how much of this it takes. Actually, it would be an excellent thing just to go over silver with this color. And when you hold them together, you can see it very quickly which one has the B25 silver and which one doesn't. Boy, I wish we had just a little more paint. We could paint the plane. But, hey, quality stuff takes time. I'm not sure if you can see how that glows. Boy, that's got some depth to it anyway. And I would suggest, from looking at what we're doing now, just go over ordinary Brodax silver with a nice wet coat of this. Put a coat of clear on that. Looks like Kaiser Wilhelm's hat here, doesn't it? Watching too many wings. I'm not sure you can see the flakes and the pearl or whatever's in here. Just to give you an idea of what the difference is. You can't get them both at the same time. This one really reflects the light back. If you want to see what this looks like after it has clear on, just go find a Mercedes dealership or an Audi dealership. Look at what that looks like. That is, I really hope that's one of the things that's going to come out of the B25 program. Is another great color that will add to our enjoyment of the hobby. Anyway, I'm just going to use up the little bit of paint that I have left on the parts. I've been trying to think of a couple of things, because I looked to see how much of that test paint we have. We really don't have a lot. I don't have enough to do the whole plane. That's really a shame, because if we did, boy, we'd be in cruise mode, but it still doesn't stop me, and I guess that's one of the things is always to have other alternative things to work on. And the reason I'm doing this is because all the glass work, the nose, the side, the turrets, everything, is going to be Brodak Candy Apple Blue. So what I'm going to do, I want the same base coat. And by the way, this new silver as a base coat is going to be, I'm sure it's going to be real nice. So I'll mask this off, get this shot silver, and then we'll see how much more paint we have left. It does cover well, but it's much better to put it over silver, that's for sure. And boy, do they sparkle sitting under the lights up there. Now, of course, everything has to dry 24 hours before we take the tape off. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't look like I have enough paint to do the wing. I've been looking at the wing and trying to decide, but I think I have enough to do the fuselage, and what that'll allow me to do is tomorrow or the next day, I can lay out all the windows and all that. So basically what I have to do is backmask the stars and bars, the red, and this will be ready to put on that little bit of paint that I have left. So we will get, and I guess that's part of it, is the exercise of knowing that you're never really too far behind the eight ball as long as you have one part of it to work on. Now, especially up here where all that glass work is going to be, the turret, the back. I guess this won't be a big deal just to mask it off. But that'll give us the next couple of days at least something to do while we're waiting for what I hope is going to be enough paint to do the wing. Happened in the last hours. Oh, it's gotten real cold out here. I should have done this earlier. Anyway, I'm just going to try to use up the paint that I have. And so far, just a couple of the things that have jumped out at me is if you go over silver, you probably won't use that much paint. We only have about 3.5 ounces of paint. It was a 4-ounce jar that wasn't full. It was like 1/3 not full. So, but because it's silver over silver, we're getting probably good coverage. But the difference when you hold the two parts together, like the two cowls or whatever, is outstanding. But what this will allow us to do is, the next couple of days, get our glass work done up here, and that's labor intensive. That's going to be a lot of work, airbrushing that all in. Actually, once this is done, I can paint the nose art too. Haven't exactly come up with a final way I wanted to do it, but this color, another good thought, if you're even thinking remotely about doing some Brodak Candy Apple, this is what you want to use for the base coat. This would just be super as a base coat. And I'm hoping where we do the candy apple, the glass is going to be candy apple. I'm hoping that's really going to sparkle. When there's no sun out here today. When we do get some sun. Oh, as I say, there's no sun. Now, while I'm trying to catch this while the sun is out, some idea of how much light gets reflected from this material. Now, believe it or not, I have just about, not quite a gun load left. Remember, I had 3.5 ounces of paint. I mixed it 50-50 with thinner. I've got just about one of those little, I think they're a 3-ounce cup, but I'm not sure. I'm going to try to get the wing painted. If I run out of paint, I'll let it run out on the bottom. Now, it takes an awful lot to impress me, believe me. I'm not impressed easily. This is 3.5 ounces of paint. And I did get everything painted. Oh, I didn't do the flaps and these two little pieces. I hope I have enough. But anyway, that is amazing. That's amazing to me that we got that. But the trick here is, if you're going to use this paint it silver first, then paint this, and when you put clear on top of this, wow, this is going to look super. Now keep in mind, I had, and this really amazed me. Again, it amazed me. I had enough to do. See, part of it is that I'm using that Nomura airbrush, so it's putting on a micro thin coat, but I even had enough to do the landing gear. Even had enough to do everything. And there's some left over. The jar we started with. This is a 4-ounce jar, as far as I know. Maybe it's a bigger than a 4-ounce jar. But anyway, we wound up with, I mixed it, and look how much is still left over, and there's still plenty of pigment in it. Ooh, that stuff sparkles up nice. So that was our test. The test is that pretty much we have one micro thin coat of silver over normal Brodax silver, and we're going to go with that. We're going to see if that's going to look good once we get the ink, and we'll be able to do glass work tomorrow. Now I've got it up by the heating vent now. I've got the heating vent open, got some cowlings up there. I'm taking the parts one by one and putting them up by the heating vent once they're dry to the touch. Boy, does this have a nice look. I am just overwhelmed by how nice this came out, and totally shocked. Again, shocked. 3.5 ounces of paint. It's almost, if somebody told me that, I'd be thinking, yeah, oh sure. But I've seen it with my own eyes. Amazing. Now, I always like to wait 24 hours before pulling off the masking tape, and if for some reason it looks like it's going to pull paint up, get it warm with a hairdryer, of course. And we're going to take our time. We got all the stars and bars and everything to do on this. Trick is try to pull it back nice and slow. There's no substitute for pulling it slow. I always get impatient, I know that. I know other people do too. I can't be the only dumb one in the whole crowd. Anyway. Boy, did this silver dry up. It is night and day shinier and brighter than what we were using for the base coat. Again, it won't be long when I can lay this all on the floor and take a look at it all in one piece. Kind of looking forward to that. I want to break all the edges, the paint edges, with one of the plastic cards. The edging looks perfect. So far so good on pulling up the tape. We don't have a lot of backmasking left to do. See, if you do the plane, and you do the whole plane silver, and then paint the red, imagine how much backmasking you have to do. You have to backmask the plane a tremendous amount more than if you do the trim and then just backmask the trim. So I've always tried to do that. Also, the advantage of that is you have less weight because you have less, there's no part of the plane that has double paint or triple paint. So that's a little bit of an advantage anyway. I'm just trying to see how this silver paint is going to peel as far as the edge goes. Perfect. Again, if it starts to get a little sticky, that was such a great trick of John Brodax. Just warm it with a hairdryer. By the way, I don't think you're going to be able to see just how shiny this silver is in real life until we actually get it buffed out. But even right now, with no clear on it, I don't know, it's a shine at a level I've never experienced before. always the test when you have see these cards wear out. Just shave that edge, there's almost nothing there. That'll be ready for whatever we're going to do ink-wise, and the difference between this silver and the base coat silver, when you do this with the regular silver, it scratches. You see scratches. You can never sand it or really do this if you're going to use it. You got to be delicate as can be. This silver is just a different composition. Doesn't show scratches. So that's just another nice little tip. The next thing I want to do is just get some idea of how I'm going to lay out all of the glass work on this. I'm going to try to do the glass work with airbrushing. Try to make it look, well, look realistic, of course. Now laying out the glass work, all of the front, the canopy, and where the gunners sit, it's going to be pretty challenging. I can see already that there's going to be a lot of masking going on here. Well, we're not going to pick any specific version. We're going to try to do like kind of a generic, most generic of the B-25s, the way the windows in the front are laid out and around the cockpit. Remember, there's so many choices of, it's infinite how many choices there are here. Now, I've been looking at some of the noses. They have these certain parts. Some of them have the windows blocked off with a shield that I guess protects when the cannon was firing, the shells come up and hit the pilot or fly into the prop or something. Some of them had some parts blocked in. Of course, there's a lot of choices here. Another thing too is the glass on top. The glass work is pretty intricate. Glass work around the turret is pretty intricate. With this back, I guess that's a shield, a bulletproof shield, I'm just guessing. See, on some of them they blocked out where the windows were with aluminum. Just imagine if we tried to do this model with molded canopies front and back. It would have been a lot nicer, of course, but I'm just not sure we could have even come close to bringing it in. I'm not sure what we have now. I don't think is going to be within the weight limit, so we just have to trudge on here. We're going to start thinking about, while we're doing this, thinking about how we want to lay out the nose art too. Gunships, they usually had this little part of the window blocked out. I guess the shells, whatever. Can you imagine breaking your own windshield with your own bullet shells? This is the plane from Forever Young, by the way. Boy, just watch that movie 10 times and tell me you won't want to build a B-25. So with all these pictures and with some of the beautiful drawings that Dave Downey has made, we're going to just start laying this out, and I guess I can measure from Dave's drawing, get some of the scales right. But there's so many variations with 1 gun, 2 guns, 4 guns, 8 guns. There's variations for almost everything. Of what makes the model a good choice in my book is just that it's so different. Some photographs that were donated by other people are all helpful. Another excellent picture, it'll be a big help. And just get all our pictures in order so we can get this in our mind how this is going to look when it's finished. One of the multiple gun noses. Well, a lot of choices. It's amazing you can get all those cannons into the nose, all the bullet beltways and everything. Start with masking off the little tail section. That'll give me a good way to get familiar with how this tape is going to lay out for the windows. It's always easier to start with something that's the smaller parts and leave the bigger ones go for the end, just to get in the mood, get in the rhythm here of laying out the tape. And of course some of the lines we're going to make, and we're going to try to make them prototypical, a little bit thinner and some a little bit thicker, but we'll start with laying out things in 1/8 inch tape because that's the most common here, and we'll try to make it as scale as possible, of course. So what I decided to do here, I want to make, because this part on the real plane is much thinner than what 1/8 inch tape would represent, is just cut some tape, just cut it with a ruler. And by having the thicknesses just a little bit varied, I think what it'll do, it'll just look more realistic than if everything was 1/8 inch across the board. See, I've been rearranging the tape about 50 times trying to get it to look the way I want it to, but I'm closing in on it. And a lot of times just going back and forth enough times and you'll get it in the end. Trying to get this that it looks from the front, they come to the right angle, and that this part that's not glass is the right proportion to the part. Tricky. A good picture of what I'm trying to replicate here. Okay, we're ready to paint. No, we're going to do all the taping off. Then we'll do the painting later. Laying this out is a little more labor than I thought it would be, but then everything on this plane is. We have some pretty good idea of what this side window would look like. Let's use it, let's call it a window, gunner station, whatever. It's got a little corner area where the gun would be coming out of course. So I need to account for that little square area in the back that would emit the gun. So what I'm going to do is outline this with tape and then get some thin tape, because that's really a thin line. It's much thinner than the outline of this. That looks like about the right percentage of it. Now, of course, I'll do the other side and get some tin foil around here backmasking this. Also, all the corners where the tape joins the back side of the knife where your fingernail can go in there. Now, the problem is we're not going to be able to spray this today. But I can get some or most of the masking done. It'll be a very nice step ahead. Here we need to lay out what amounts to be the aluminum reinforcing ribs and the, I guess, bulletproof area on this. I'm not sure. I'll try to get it from a couple angles so I can see what this really looks like. It looks like the predominant thing is to get the slot for the gun in the right position. Yeah, some of them are actually almost totally a clear bubble. I think I'm going to model one that doesn't have the bulletproof area in the back just because it'll add a little bit more of the glass area, which should dress up the model a little better. This is going to be just laying out the tape several different ways until we get exactly what we like. I kind of like the one where, and of course the nice thing is you have so many options, where there isn't, this normally would be some kind of a blacked out area. I like it where this mostly will be almost all glass. I'm going to try just laying this out a few different ways and see how I like it. The gun slots right was really a little more labor intensive than I thought it would be. Anyway, I'm not going to be able to finish this right now. We have another, let me show you this project. I need to do this, take a little break from working on the B-25. Mike just showed up with his buffed out now, hopefully ready to fly. We just need to put the motor and tank in here. So I'm going to take a little break, get this set up for him. Colors really came out nice on this. What a nice combination. Anyway, what I got to do now, and it's a true story. I know Mike's not going to want to have this on video, but tough, I'm going to tell it anyway. I made him up a beautiful carbon tank for this plane. And when he left it the other day, he left a little note that he sat on the carbon tank, and I said, oh man, I'll just make another one. Well, when I saw what he did, he actually sat on it. It's a pancake. I think he did what I did to that telephone about a couple months ago. Drove over it with his car. Anyway, we're going to take a little break from working on the B-25. Try to get this set up, because tomorrow may be a flying day. Maybe. You never can tell. That's really critical here is we can just flip from one project, and we got this guy drying up, to another project. And if the weather's nice, we have the Laser to fly tomorrow, and of course if it's really nice, we'll get some flights on Miss Ashley or the Typhoon. So, it's like having too many starting pitches here, I don't know. Let me see if this motor's going to drop right in here. This is just one more Cardinal that's been built with the flat tail. You'll be real interested in seeing how this trims out. It's got the short nose for the Sato. You just need to see now how the hardware is going to snap in here. Set this up with a metal tank. By the way, Mike got some nice button head screws to hold the landing gear down. They look nice. And a cowling, of course. Of course, he didn't give me any. Anyway, the tank, now with a 72, if you're just starting up, you want the center of the tank 5/8 of an inch off the mounts. You can see how that tank really is. Like the Laser, it's got to be up off the mounts for a stock 72. Might be wondering why I stopped what I'm doing, stopped working on a B-25, just because Mike comes here with his plane. Well, it's simple. I'm dying to see how this thing's gonna fly too. And we may get Bob Zambelli up here tomorrow. He may fly up with his full-size plane. We pick him up at the airport. We'll have something to do, something to hang out at the field with. A couple of the things we always have to do is bend the intake tube to avoid hitting the carburetor. And I put a pin through here because this is going to be where the uniflow vent's going to go. Kind of traditional, standard way we set these up, and it's worked well on other planes. I'm assuming it's going to work well on this. Now I always use a burr to get the hole, not a drill, and I make up a vent with a little eyelet on it. Now what I need to do here is with the parting tool or with the engraving tool, just roughen this up so it gets a good tooth in the epoxy when we push that in there. That little eyelet acts as a nice, what it does, it increases the diameter so you get better leverage on this, not twisting around. There's little serrations. Let's see if we can get this on the close-up lens. The rougher you can make that, the better the epoxy is going to grip it. Now, true stories. More than once that I've done this, I've got some of the epoxy in the tube and not caught it until I went to test run the engine. So as soon as this epoxy dries, of course I've blown it with the piece of tubing I have here, blown the air through it, but just in case some seeks in there. And I'd like to get, because we're going to use it sometimes as a uniflow vent, get it parallel to the thrust line of the plane if possible. And once that dries, now I got to figure out where we're going to put the overflow. So there's our uniflow connection. As soon as our overflow vent hardens up, in fact it's almost hard now, connect that to the overflow, and then we want to make up a tube that exits out here that's going to basically be the crankcase vent, and then we'll hook that up with a piece of flexible neoprene, flexible Prather tubing. We just need to work on the spinner hardware. Make the little vent tube up. Because it'll cover this, we don't have the linkage piece. We're making up a piece of linkage so that through here you can just run a screwdriver and open and shut the throttle for fine-tuning the motor run. Once we make that linkage, then of course this will go on either with a blind nut or glued on. We don't have that, but if we do get to fly tomorrow, boy, I love that cowling. So glad we made the mold for that cowling. And by the way, if you're ever trying to polish these spinners up real easy, 4-0 steel wool, even I just wanted to do a quick and dirty job. 4-0 steel wool on the muffler. Give you an idea. That's the quickest way to get all the goop off of it. Or that SOS, that, look how nice that shines up. That SOS that has the soap in it is useful too. Alright, as soon as he gets here, pick this up and then get back to work.
Someday they have got to grow up and end up like you and me.
I really like the way this paint job came out and the way I hope it's going to look real nice in the air if we get to fly. Within the next few days, we don't know. Weather's so unpredictable. Now we really worked late last night, to get Mike's plane ready for today, thinking that today would be a flyable day. Actually, Bob Zambelli's going to fly up in his Warrior, Piper Warrior. The only only one problem. We got up this morning and there's ice on the pond and it's really cold. It's a nice day, but it's cold. But we're going to go down to the airport, which is about a mile or so from our flying field. Pick up Bob Zambelli and see if we can get something done today. But the priority thing will be if Mike wants to fly see how the weather is. If Mike wants to fly the plane, it's ready to go. This is the little airport right by our field. Caldwell Airport is about less than a mile from the field. And what's nice is when Bob comes up here, he can fly his plane. It's a 2-hour ride or a much shorter flight. So he gets to fly up here. We supply the plane and fuel. It's a pretty good deal. And check this restaurant out. This is pretty cool. This is where our club has its annual, which is going to be next week, by the way, our annual award banquet. What they've done on this field, I think it's kind of cool. They've turned it into like a Spitfire bedroom. And you can see they have all Army vehicles here, and I think this is kind of a cool, especially because it's real close to our field. So we get to have breakfast here or lunch. And the name of the place is the 94th Bomb Squadron. You see they've got the building decorated like it's been bombed. Cannons. And what's cool at night, they have electric lights in the Jeeps. It's kind of a neat place. It's a very unusual tail of a plane over there, some kind of plane. Fuel thing is a German wing up on the inside. Of course, it's got all memorabilia and stuff. Kind of a neat place. And here he comes. Anyway, how cool is this? It's cool for him anyway. We get to carry the planes, we get to bring the fuel, we get to charge the battery, and he gets to test Zetrons all day. How cool is that? See, he's going to go into the trees. Ah, Bobby, you went through the... Just kidding. Anyway, we have plenty of Power Master fuel here. Just in case somebody comes to bother us, we can take care of them. And a nice truck to carry all your Zetron stuff in. I'll tell you, this is the next best thing to being a NASCAR driver. Boy, I'll tell you, stunt slaves galore. Look at this, even Chicky doesn't have it this good. Anyway, looks like we have a reasonably cold, reasonably nice day on our hands. And it's always an adventure. You just never know what's coming. Anyway, I remember the last time Bobby was up here with the plane. Of course, he flies up here quite often. Took Elliot and me for a ride down by New York City, all around the area in this plane. Kind of a fun thing. I remember when I had a plane. I had an Air Coupe, of course, but not quite this nice, of course. He's looking around. Make sure you brought all the Zetron stuff for me to test. I don't want to have to do any work. I don't want to have to get my greasy hands dirty. And Artnowski, start the engine for me and run the lines out and oh man, does this ever the ultimate. Anyway, I think we're going to have a fun day today. Even if we freeze a little bit. This is the hardest work this man will do all day long. Now, how cool is this? Zambelli lands his plane 5 minutes later. They start the World War II music here. They don't do this when I land, when I take off. Oh, man. This guy must be some celebrity, boy. Hey, you're wasting all my good air! In my whole life, nobody's ever picked me up at the airport. Took me flying. It's just like an unbelievable thing. This is some fancy building. This is the music they're playing. This is just the coolest of cool things. I'm assuming Bobby's going to want to have breakfast before we go flying, but he's got his gloves. It's cold out here. Yeah, we got wind coming up already. You believe this? It was nice until Bobby landed the plane. Oh, here it comes. Goodbye. Perfect until you got here. Look at this. I don't believe this. Oh! Did you have breakfast yet?
I got a cookie.
A cookie. A Sato cookie. Moment of truth. Yeah, this is the engine that's been in the red plane for 1,000 flights. But like anything, it's a brand new tank. So you just want to be on the rich side, if anything. First flight of Mike Kajeski's, and boy, it's not as warm as it was that weekend my daughter had the birthday party.
They make so much power with that carburetor.
All right, first flight of the Cardinal. After working all night on this thing. Tom, does that wing look level?
Down, I think
Down?
a half an inch, maybe a quarter of an inch.
Okay. First thing, let's see if we can get the wing level. Let's see if it's up. I thought he didn't have enough tip weight in it, but he says he did.
Now that's up definitely.
Okay, so it needs a tab on the bottom. He's got the tab already made. Or he needs heavier wheels, and he has the wheels out being made. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely up inverted. Now it's going to be light and out. It looks like it turns nice, though. He's got that Joe Adamusco handle happening. Look at the size of this handle.
Fly it down 4.5 feet off.
For right now, let him be safe.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't have to get too cute right now. Paint looks nice in the air. All right, we'll see how he feels at the end of this flight. I didn't time to see how long it was running. And plus, it's a brand new tank, Tom. I don't even have a filter on it either. There was no way to put the filter.
A Cardinal kit from Bill Hummel, and I bought a Sato 72 from John Misk before he closed up.
Oh, is he done now?
Oh yeah, no, it's over. He's closed.
Didn't know that.
All right, Mikey. What do you think, Mike?
Beauty.
Now, let me think. Was it worth me staying up all night getting divorced from Karen to finish this for you? Yeah, who cares about Wendy's B25? The hell with it. I could have my B25 done.
I have just an inch
Real nose heavy, boy. Real nose heavy.
bruiser spin. It's like a ram in front of a submarine.
It's forward of the leading, and it still corners nice.
It's a nice thing.
Felt like it turned equal, pretty equal.
You get the corner and you get stability.
Because we worked on those controls a while. Where do you wear the controls in a little bit? Get some.
What do you do percentage-wise on flap and elevator? 1-to-1?
1-to-1. Everything else is nonsense.
On a long airplane, an airplane with real numbers.
An old plane may be different.
You're building a
Flip it over, Mike. How much oil's on the bottom? A lot? Because we could cant the muffler down just a little bit if you want to.
Ready.
Oh, you canted it?
Yeah.
Okay, and the vent?
Got it.
This, what we'll do is shorten this vent and just put rubber here so when you're wiping a plane off, you don't hit it. Oh, that's all you got to wipe. What a job, huh, Tom? Is that nice? Now, Tom has exactly the same plane, same motor, same muffler.
It's incredible how close
And you used that aluminum spinner, didn't you?
my front end is to his.
You got the same deal in the front end?
Essentially, yes. I haven't settled. I'm in wood now, finally assembled. Probably go into finish within a week or two.
Oh, right.
And I haven't decided on whether front cowl hold downs are necessary. I have the same two bolts here.
They're the
I
same.
don't have one.
And you have
Mike, we gotta get that. Mike, what happened to the carbon tank that I made you for this plane?
Head on it.
He sat on it!
Head on it.
Where is it? I want to put it on the video. You notice the tank ain't out here? Have you noticed that?
What's the repair technology for carbon fiber tanks?
You kiss Wendy's behind, he makes you another one. You better get over there and mow that grass tomorrow.
Maybe you should loan me the camera so I gotta learn how to run that camera. Because
Yes!
is this gonna happen in Macy's window
I
tomorrow?
think so! All right, Sato, man, you're next up. And he's practicing with the new Z-Tron. Let's see how his coordination is. All right, he's got it. Don't break my Medusa prop. Now this is pretty cool, Tom. I pick him up at the airport, and as I'm picking him up, they start the World War II music. I mean, they don't turn that music on for me when I go there for lunch. Now, when did he get here? No, Andretti, you know, where they pick you up by helicopter and you fly to the race. Looks like we're going to have a decent day here. I don't know. Look it up. It's still chilly. It's cold, though, boy. My little tootsie hands are cold.
Buy a new airplane. You don't get
Yeah, you don't think about the cold when you have a new plane going. Let's see you land it. Mike mowed the grass. It's smooth as a baby's behind. Except there. That's the only spot that's bumpy. Oh yeah, that's hard to do, Bob. You're gonna have a lot of trouble with your Beechcraft. He's not gonna like that at all. Now he's lefty, so the Z-Tron thing is backwards for him. We're gonna have to break his arm so he can fly normally.
I think as long as he points it more or less
Yeah, oh, it's pretty forgiving.
plus and minus 20 degrees.
Yeah, it's pretty forgiving. Don't break my prop. Now what Banjock likes is you go right here, open it wide, and go to a wing over. It's Danny's favorite thing. Yeah, it's hard to do, Bob. It'll take you all day to figure that out. A lot of people will get some test flying on this today. I can see that. We also have the laser to test. We'll have some fun with the laser. Ryan's got his Sato 56 already cranking along here. Ready for a second flight. It's going to be a great day. Well, it turned out to be a nice day, but it's still plenty cold, baby. These motors much prefer starting in warm weather. That's quite a turnout here. Quite a turnout. Preliminary feeling, I got the first flight on the laser. It's just about like a Sato 72. It's not a whole lot different. Ran very well the first time.
just realized the cover's down already.
Yeah, that's nice.
I tried to do something different with it. See what I did with the reconnaissance nose? I used the plastics from
Yeah.
give it a little third dimension.
Yeah.
What do you need there? We just need your batteries.
This has the electronic thing, or just a three-line bell crank?
Yeah, I usually make
Yeah.
manual.
What kind of motors, Maxes?
Those are OS 25s.
You gonna fly it later?
I might. I just want to get the engines percolating right together.
What size motor is that?
They're 108.
108? It's a nice beefy sounding motor. I think he needs more down in the elevators. Be modifying those controls tonight.
Hold it up a minute there. You still have plugs?
So who's making this now? This is Bill Lee?
In flight neutral.
Oh, okay. I see he's got like a Bobby Hunt thing.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can slide these around so you don't hit your
Slide,
knuckle.
and well, the thing is, that's to narrow the line spacing.
Yeah, yeah.
But as you narrow the line spacing, they also get farther away from the handle, which, you know,
Yeah,
in effect
yeah,
doubles what you're...
Yeah, you're going in like more
It's going
power
in the right
steering or-
direction.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly. You don't want to go the other way.
But, you know, it's got very few pieces, is what I like about it. I mean, the inside there is a screw, but if you keep it
This
screwed
would be good
together...
if you put lock nuts on this. That would be the only thing I would
again, if
worry
it fails,
about.
the lines come out of here.
Right, right.
So if you got it closed up
Okay, right,
and it
right.
fails, it's still gonna,
Not the end of the world, yeah.
you know,
That's a
you'll
good
be
little
able to
thing.
drive the airplane.
Bill Lee sells them there?
Yeah, $35, I think.
Oh, okay. Oh, it looks nice. And you got the in-flight adjusting, the thing with the screw.
It's
Cool.
quality made, you know.
Yeah,
I
it looks nice.
I usually can't fly with a bug.
This would probably be fine as far as like a smaller plane, but on a big plane, well, you'd have to see.
I don't know.
There's only one way to find these things out, baby.
That's it. You know.
Club running. Anyway, we're coming up on the end of the tape. We are having a banner day. It's not even lunchtime yet. Wow. Just a banner day. Everybody's been having a good time. Mike got his new plane flown. The laser's running well. The Z-Tron's burning up the batteries. And Zambelli gets to fly home at the end of the day. I don't know how it can get a whole lot better than that. Got the electronic signals going down the wires to open and close the throttle. I guess that's similar to Fred Cronwet and Bill Young's method, which has been reliable for years. Sometimes when I'm at this field, I wonder if I'm not already dead and I've died and gone to heaven. Anyway, we'll see you on the next tape. We're going to get some more footage this afternoon after lunch. We're going to send out for some pizza. Just let the tape run out here. It's been a great day. And I have a feeling it's not over yet. All right. See you on the next tape. This is a day to remember. Watching that Cub fly reminds me of how long ago it was when we just started with this throttle control, started with the Z-Tron, and pretty much how it's evolved, and it's still evolving, so that's going to be fun to have in the future. And everybody that's used that Z-Tron seems to be able to just adapt right into it very quickly. Anyway, we didn't get to finish the masking, the back masking. We're going to kind of finish this up on the next tape and hopefully get a nice warm dry day to do the airbrushing, the spraying. get on with this. We're closing in on this. It's not going to be long before this is a real B-25. And sometime next week, we're going to set up the field in Palisade Park, the concrete field, and start flying our good competition planes. Depending on the weather, you never do know the weather, but we sure would like to get some flights on this after all the work we put into making a carbon fiber wing. And of course, with Dub Jet coming next week, I'd like to get the Jet 60s cranking up for them. So we'll see you on the next tape. Hope you've enjoyed the tape. Hope we've learned something. In fact, I've got a little storyboard I'm going to do on the laser on the next tape. We've learned quite a bit so far. Anyway, thanks a lot.